Hello, and welcome to another episode of the ohmTown Daily News Show, which covers the last 24 hours of news across a broad swath of topics, categorized into 6 categories there, right? So, create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology, and then 50 channels that I hope to bring to Twitch. Kind of go about this every once in a while now here on the stream. But you can always pick this up over at YouTube or as a podcast form. There's no video in the podcast. One of these days, I guess they'll have video based podcasts that are portable and not necessarily on YouTube. I don't know. So I've already picked about 20 articles. Let's get into it. I have an appointment. I had an appointment. I had meetings and events that I had to do. Like I've been saying this week, I thought that I was going to be free, but I kept getting pulled in different directions. When you're mayor, you have as many bosses as exist, I suppose, out there. People exist out there saying, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, I'm mayor. Of course I can. I have to take care of my town, right? So that's what I've been doing all day. So my voice is kind of messed up right now. Yeah, and I've got a meeting after this. I have other duties that I need to attend to here in about an hour and a half. So let's get into this and get you on your day. The very first article is in the Word and Tech channel. It's from Vergecast. It says the wild laptops from Computex 2022. This week on the show, Nile and David, along with The Verge managing editor Alex Kranz, discuss the most interesting laptops around this week at Computex 2022, a new OLED laptop under $1,000, an LTE Chromebook to take calls with, a gaming laptop with stereoscopic 3D content, and more. So I'm going to click this link and it'll take us over to The Verge. I don't think that there's going to be much in terms of content about all of this because you need to go to the Vergecast, which is another podcast. Verge has been around for a while. Their podcast is pretty much an audio version of the website. So let's see. In the second segment of the show, Verge senior reporter Liz Lapato returns for her segment This Week in Elon to update us on the billionaire's deal to buy Twitter and why he may be stalling the acquisition. In segment 3 of that podcast, the crew goes through the top gadget news and rumors of this week, starting with potential leak that was almost intentionally made for Alex's enjoyment. Apple is reportedly testing a foldable device with a secondary e-ink display. Yeah, I talked about that a couple of days ago. I just, maybe they're noodling around with it just to see feasibility study, but it is definitely far from being a minimum viable product. And having an e-ink display that isn't really as stunning as the rest of the device thing, it just seems like it's not going to make it very far in the Apple ecosystem. But technology evolves, and maybe it will rise to the occasion and Apple will buy into it. In the meantime, go over and read the rest of this article by Andrew Marino at theverge.com, and always go and download the Vergecast. Then you get to hear the voices of the people that are writing these articles over at The Verge. Let's get into the next article. The next article is Here's What's Come Out of U.S. Congress Hearings on Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. If you missed it, there was a congressional hearing about UAPs. What we used to call UFOs are now UAPs. And in the event, what the conclusion that I came to is that they are really minimizing what some things are. In fact, multiple references were made to drones. I don't see how some of these are drones. They are something else. I don't know, but for the time and distance and size and stuff like that. It just seems like not drones. But these people are not just, uh, you know, and it's not just me sitting out there on my deck and going, "Oh, look, it's an alien invasion." These are uh, scientists and people that are doing fundamental research to figure out what these things are, whatever it is, because they've been showing up on military radar, and hundreds of them around battle groups in the open ocean and on land. And so this was spun up because of the threat that these UAPs are seemingly surveilling our military functionality, what our capabilities are. So it says the last investigation of this kind happened more than 50 years ago as part of a U.S. Air Force investigation called Project Blue Book. Now, there is a lot more, by the way, to all of that, which examined reported sightings of unidentified flying objects. Note the change in name. The current hearings are the result of a stipulation attached to a COVID 2020 bill, a 2020 COVID-19 relief bill, which requires U.S. intelligence agencies to produce a report on UAPs within 180 days. That report appeared in June last year. But why would governments be interested in UAPs? One exciting line of thought is UAPs are alien spacecraft visiting Earth. That's a concept that gets a lot of attention by playing on decades of sci-fi movies. So this article talks about that, but there have been quite a few sightings that aren't explainable, things that act without a signature, like a heat signature, without making noise. They don't show up on radar. They move in ways that our technology just can't do. And so investigating what they are seems like a pretty smart deal. The problem is that anybody who has ever talked about it or investigated it has always been marginalized, in some way referred to as being loony or out of their mind or irrational or something. But these are reports that are coming from military personnel, from scientists, from um, seemingly people that have been entrusted with quite a bit of responsibility, and they're talking about it. And it's not really in the best interest of a government to announce to the world that there are things happening around their battle groups and military bases in a context of we don't know what they are and they pose a threat. It's just not smart for business. The optics are really bad. So anybody that says that they are fake or that it's drones or all kinds of other things, that it's a hoax, etc., they don't see the data that others see. And why would anybody want to say, hey, you know what, there's stuff flying around our aircraft carrier in the tune of hundreds of devices and we don't know what they are? And they're not small. They are extremely fast though. So if you want to learn more about it from this particular website's perspective, go over to phys.org. The article's written by Stephen Tingay of The Conversation, which is a podcast as well. But here's what came out of the U.S. Congress hearings on unidentified aerial phenomena. I'd love to see what it actually turns out to be, because it's a multitude of things, different sizes, different shapes. 1 second. Yeah, my voice is just taking a beating today. So I'm going to click the link on this next article, and we will move on. We'll keep on trucking through these articles and see if we can make it within an hour. And I don't do editing of the presentation of this for the podcast or anything else. You get to see how the sausage is made, and let's just say it's a mess. The next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. Halo Support Studio will pay for staff to move out of anti-trans and anti-abortion states. Posting an open letter on Twitter, Hoberman explained that he finds it appalling that the state of Texas, where CA is based, or California is based, I don't know, CA, certain affinity, where CA is based, is committing gross intrusions on the rights and dignity of transgender youth, while also condemning attacks on the rights of women's bodily autonomy. And so it says, in Texas, this includes bounty hunter laws that allow citizens to sue anyone they suspect of not only having an abortion, but assisting someone in getting one, according to Hoberman. Okay, I won't get into it, but basically this is pitting citizen against citizen, and while we are fighting for our rights, others are profiting off of the taking of our rights. At the very same time, the people who are taking these rights away are screaming that they deserve their rights. And so while we are fighting on the floor, there are people that are benefiting from all of this in some weird way, either ideologically or financially, yet screaming that the government is oppressing and taking rights and whatnot and whatever. No person should be sitting there monitoring other people and saying what they're doing with their body in their house or with their doctors. It is their right. And what's really appalling are the people that are screaming that duality of, they're taking my rights, but I'm going to use my ideological bent to control your rights. That's just overwhelmingly disgusting to me. Now, I don't think that anybody should move out of those states. I think more liberal people should be going into those states and changing the dynamic, because the only way it's going to change is with more level, liberal, intellectual, educated, strong people. They need to go in and change the dynamic. And the only way it changes is with population. Why? Because everything is gerrymandered so that there's a particular political bent that wins based on that gerrymandering. If everything was as it should be, which is every vote, regardless of where it is, you can have your regions and whatnot, but you're gerrymandering it so that you get a win regardless of what the population is, because you have it sliced up in such a way that it's statistically significant enough for you to get a win regardless of how the population is. But everybody's vote should count. The election should be open for longer periods of time. It's entirely transparent as can be right now, because nobody's finding votes electronically. No, that's not how it works. If everything was modernized, you'd be able to see votes in real time. If I can track people on websites in real time, then I can track a vote in real time. We haven't implemented that because everything gets hamstrung, and you can't use the latest technology because of the way that government contracting works. I even have a show about it called Far Weekly, but I haven't done too much on it. But I know through my data mining, through my processing of that data, that the higher population density there is in a given region, the more liberal it is, the more educated it is, the more open it is. As you move away from population density areas, you become more and more distant from society, literally and figuratively. And it shouldn't be that way. But there's a lot of other controls in place to facilitate equity and inclusion and whatnot, but then that gets abused. And it gets abused so that there are outcomes like this, where a law goes into place that pits your neighbor against you. It's intentionally building to a head of civil war simply because there's laws that are enabling somebody, literally calling it a bounty hunt. It's twisted, it's immoral, it's sociopathic. Anyway, let's click the link. It takes us over to PC Gamer. Natalie Clayton is the author of the article. Certain affinity will cover the cost of moving to safer locations. I think everybody else should move into those locations and change the dynamic as to what is safe. Why not make it safe by having more educated, level-headed thinkers instead of allowing the echo chamber to build louder and louder? Disrupt it, just like you do with business. Disrupt it socially. If not now, when? If you're willing to move out, why not stay and have other people who are willing to move in and change the population, change the dynamic? Okay. You're going to have to go over to this PC Gamer article by Natalie Clayton and read more about it. It's in the chat right now. And it'll be in the show notes. I might have to wait until later to do them, but they'll be in tonight, by tonight. So let's continue on. The next article is about a 26-year-old who helped women of color earn more than $3.5 million in the stock market, and that they're going to answer two most common investing questions that they get. So Charlia Brooks is the co-founder of Modern Black Girl. It's BLK, by the way. So Modern Black Girl, a platform dedicated to wealth building for women of color. She says people often ask where to begin investing and how much money they should start with. And the first step is always learning, Brooks says. Understanding more will help tackle your fears. Indeed. This is an article over at Business Insider by Cheryl Nance Nash. And let's see. Yep, the first step is always learning. Indeed. But then you have some politician that comes out of the woodwork and says that, women are overeducated. Some women are overeducated and unloved, and that they should put down the books. And I just find it so misogynist, so backwards, so regressive, and again, sociopathic. Just, it really turns my stomach. So our goal is to encourage youth to invest, to get them in that mindset so that they're saving for their first car, for college. We want them to be ahead of the curve in those formative years. Yeah. I was telling people this morning that you need to start now, and ideas that you have when you're young turn into business models in the future. If you have an idea and it doesn't exist out there, then keep on enhancing it until you're ready to bring it to market, and then hit the ground running. So start early. Learn as much as you can and become a subject matter expert so that you can speak with authority from whatever that perspective is at that time. It's always changing, so it's not necessarily immediately. So if you get a master's degree or a PhD or a doctorate, it's you can speak from authority. Otherwise, it's just like me. I'm talking about more opinion than as a subject matter expert, because I really am just kind of casually looking at stuff. But to people that I consult for and people that I speak to, I tell them, hey, this is how it works. And you should start early. And if you keep on waiting, other people are going to be eating your cookie instead of you being able to benefit from your expertise, from your hard work. So start now. She says they're working to change the underrepresentation of Black women in the stock market. Modern Black Girl is an educational community that offers classes on investing. It's free teen university, a 4-week accelerated financial literacy program for young women ages 14 to 19 teaches how to invest in and navigate the stock market. Each student receives a $500 cash wallet to get started, and at the end of the year, 2 people are selected to receive a $10,000 grant for college. 10 young people are chosen every other month to participate in the program. They've grown to a community of more than 150,000 members. Cool. If you want to read more about it, go over to the Business Insider article that's linked in the chat and in the show notes. Let's continue on. The next article is about EVs. Renault reveals electric hydrogen hybrid concept car. So there is so much in that to unpack. Says it will have a range of up to 497 miles. So let's click the link. It'll just take us straight over to CNBC and we can take a look at this car. It won't be obviously in the podcast, but one of these days I'll remember to log into this site. 2.5 kilogram tank is located in the vehicle's front. Renault says it will take around 5 minutes to fill. And it's a hydrogen fuel cell engine, electric motor, battery fuel cell, and a hydrogen tank. There was a time when people they were worried that a hydrogen-powered car would turn into a nuclear bomb. Just kind of irrational thinking, and that kind of, without education, you have that kind of irrational thinking. At one point, they put a limit on cars' speed because they were worried that it was going to scare horses. And now horses are hardly ever seen anywhere in the grand scheme of things. And we're averaging 70 miles an hour. So the hydrogen fuel cell cars, it really should have been the norm a long time ago. I think the dynamic would have changed. Our need for oil would have changed. And it's much more defensible and portable than most other things that are being planned. Electric power takes too long to charge, but a fuel cell hybrid system, you basically fill it up with hydrogen. And we can make hydrogen. You just split water. According to the document published on Thursday that outlined the concept, the Scenic Vision's 40 kilowatt hour battery is recyclable and will be produced at a facility in France by 2024. So is there more pictures in this? I want to see what this car looks like, because I think the only picture I have is that one right there. And looks neat on the front. But everybody's going to start bragging about the size of their frunk. I don't really care about the frunk. I want mileage and defensibility, portability of the thing that powers it. And electric vehicles. I love the idea of electric vehicles. I would love for all cars to have automated drivers. I would love them to all be networked so it's all seamless merging and everything is of maximum efficiency. But they're just too slow to charge up. And there's a massive outlay. You have to pay a lot of money to have a high-end charger installed in your garage. Otherwise, if you try and trickle charge any EV, it's going to take a month to charge it to where it's useful. I'm a bit hyperbolic about it, but it takes a considerable amount of time to charge on anything other than a fast charger. And even then, it takes 30 minutes or so. Sometimes 2 hours. It really depends on the charger. But again, the fuel cell, it should have gotten traction, but maybe the production costs at the time were a lot higher. It says, described by the International Energy Agency as a versatile energy carrier, hydrogen has a diverse range of applications and can be deployed in a wide range of industries. It can be produced in a number of ways. One method includes using electrolysis with an electric current splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. So basically what I said. So anyway, pretty neat. I think that hydrogen fuel cells are probably where we should be, not necessarily pure electric. The next article, and we'll continue on, got about 5 more articles, maybe more. Let me correct this. There we go. So the next article is Norman Reedus confirms Death Stranding sequel. We just started the second one. If you've never seen Death Stranding, you should go and check out this game. It's over on Steam. You can check out write-ups, reviews and whatever else, playthroughs. Great storyline. It's kind of weird when you're looking at it, right? Because it's basically a little baby strapped inside a bubble on somebody's environmental suit. But it has a really neat story. So it's the article's snippet, which is actually quite larger than I normally like. It says, "We just started that one," Rita says, in response to a question about his work on Death Stranding. That's pretty blunt and hard to misread, but just in case there's doubt, he repeats the claim a second time, but not before retelling the story of how he came to meet Death Stranding director Hideo Kojima in the first place. So let's click the link. I encourage you to go over and read the rest of the article. I just kind of skimmed through the very beginning of it. And this article is over at pcgamer.com, written by Andy Chalk. Nice. So what do you think of Death Stranding? If you've never checked it out, go and check it out. It's kind of, a walking simulator of sorts. Let me pause this. And you can go and read about how he met Kojima. I'm not going to read all of this and talk about all of this in the stream, but maybe it'll probably be about 2 or 3 years. I think I saw that in the article. So let's continue on to the next article. Data shows that movie piracy is up from 2021. We'll click this link. Done. There's a little bit of a secret here that I think most people, those who do movie piracy, know, and those who are really anti-movie piracy don't seem to really want to grasp onto this little factoid, which is, well, let me read this to you here. So this article was aggregated from Business Insider and thrown into the Hatch Ideas channel, and it says, data shows that movie piracy is up from 2021, but hasn't hurt Hollywood's biggest box office hits this year. Movies released simultaneously to theaters and streaming services last year were frequently pirated. Theater execs said that this impacted a movie's box office. Studios are moving away from the strategy, and piracy isn't rampant during a movie's theatrical run. Well, I don't think that it's really rampant to begin with. I think that the people who will not go and buy or pay for a movie in a movie theater will pirate if they want to see it, but they were never intending to go and see it in the movie theater. So piracy really doesn't do much. It doesn't cost anybody. It doesn't. You can add up all of the piracy and give it a value and say, this is what it's taking away from the box office. But the people who pirate were not intending to go and pay for the movie to begin with. If there is a component, it's few and far between for people who, when they're approached, hey, did you pirate this movie? They might have some ethical dilemma and go, oh, okay, yeah, I was going to go see it, but it's too expensive. But most people who pirate are not going to go and pay for it to begin with. Otherwise, they would go and see it in the movie theater. And there's a lot of discussion about calling it theft. And in that perspective, nothing is being stolen. Okay, so you can't steal a digital movie. If it's only in the movie theaters and you do a screener, yeah, you're actually doing a copyright violation. But nobody's really stealing anything because it is infinitely distributable. Anybody can download a movie that's in digital format. So you're not keeping anything from anybody. That's what theft is, taking it and preventing somebody else from consuming it. So I can steal a car, I can steal a bag of bread, but when all I have to do is right click and copy a movie, it's not really stealing. What you're taking from somebody is money. It's a different animal. That said, I don't think anybody should pirate. I mean, if you enjoyed the movie, then go and pay for it. Even if you don't go and watch it in the movie theater at that point, if you liked the movie that you pirated, go pay for a movie and don't show up because you've already watched the movie. Why bother seeing it in a movie theater now? But if you liked it, pay for it. Consider it a demo that you just watched or played a game of, right? If you play a demo and you like it, then you buy the game. But we don't get to see the whole of a movie as a demo, just like we don't get to see a whole of a game. We get to play quite a bit of a game as a demo, but we don't get to see a lot of a movie. We have to pay for it. And if we think it sucks, we're out the however many, I mean, it's like a mortgage now to go into a movie theater. So when they talk about, piracy and how much it's costing and whatnot, they're taking what the estimated piracy levels are, attributing a certain value per piracy and saying this is how much it's costing. Completely distracted by the fact that people aren't going to the movie theaters because they don't think that the movie is worth whatever it is that's being charged. Pardon me one second. So ended up coughing a little bit. So this article is over at Business Insider, and you can go over and check out their particular take on it. Travis Clark is the author of the article. And really, I think that they should just stick to streaming the movies and letting people consume it wherever they want to. Have that have it as an option in the movie theaters and through distribution. But I think gone are the days of movie theaters. People want to, put on their sweats and just hang out, if they even put on pants. So let's see if there's something else in here. Mortal Kombat premiered simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max. It earned $42 million in the US and $84 million globally. Black Widow debuted simultaneously in movie theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access. It grossed $183 million in the US and $378 million worldwide, according to this article. Let's see what else is in here. When a movie is released simultaneously to a streaming service, a pristine copy of that movie is made available day one that it's in cinemas. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So it says, that doesn't mean that movies aren't still facing piracy, according to Muzo. A leading piracy insights company. Visits to movie piracy sites increased 42.5% in the first quarter of 2022 compared to the same period in 2021. But keep in mind that movie releases were slim in the early months of last year. And I think there were only like 8 or something like that. So this kind of stuff is going to exist regardless. People pirating is more about technical sophistication and understanding how to do it. And when you paint somebody into a corner, they become very capable of trying to get out of that corner. And you learn the tools so that you can keep on doing whatever it is you were doing before. Now we're coming out of the COVID lockdown phase of society, and people are going to be coming out and going to movie theaters and whatnot. But I still don't think that it'll ever rise back to the same levels. If you want to know more about it, go over to the businessinsider.com site and take a look at it. It says here, finally, actually, there's quite a bit more, but it says, for me, I'm going to move on to the next article. Theater execs Insider has spoken to say that the exclusive theatrical run can build momentum for a movie's eventual streaming debut. The data suggests that that's the case for piracy too, or at least that if a movie is a hit in theaters, it could be popular on piracy sites too. Yeah, probably. But it's probably because people just want that movie. And the quality of pirated movies tends to suffer because it isn't uncompressed and with the audio fidelity that uh, a licensed copy has. It's a wholly different animal. You might be able to find some that are really quality copies from um, high quality resources where it's sourced from, right? But for some reason, everything that I have ever seen has always been kind of barely tolerable um, with compression issues and audio issues. So let's continue on. If you're capable of paying for it and you do pirate it, go and you like it, go and pay for it. You know, nobody wants to, or I should say, you don't want somebody taking food off your table. And if somebody can steal money from you because they don't pay you for the work that you do, that's basically what's happening. You're taking money, you're taking food, you're taking what I survive off of when you don't pay for something, which kind of sucks, y'all. Just pay for your stuff. So the next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Suspect in Dave Chappelle incident facing charges of attempted murder in a separate case. This guy kind of dodged a bullet, right? Dave Chappelle almost could have been killed. If somebody is suspected of murder, attempted murder, sorry, um, this guy could have done a whole lot more damage. He got a bit beat up, though. So if it was just a prank, bro, he's paying the cost of it. And now he's really, I don't think he was on stable ground to begin with. Let's go over to the article. This is an article at thehill.com by Lexi Lunas. And it says here, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon said on Thursday that Isaiah Lee is facing one count of attempted murder. The charge is related to an alleged stabbing of his roommate in December, months before his alleged assault on Chappelle. So alleged. I always think that it's funny. It's like in Florida, you're required to refer to somebody who is not yet convicted of something as being Florida man. You can't divulge their identity. Florida man does this, Florida person does that. And in articles, you have to say alleged. Even though there's video of somebody charging onto a stage and with a knife gun combination. It was a gun shaped knife, kind of like a punch dagger, but it was a gun. And it's wholly available. Anybody can pull this thing up, and still it's alleged. So I guess he's alleged until he is convicted of maybe a second attempted murder. If he would have followed through with it, then Dave Chappelle would have been deleted, which it really sucks. The publicity generated by the attack on Mr. Chappelle helped police solve this crime. The incident that occurred at the Hollywood Bowl was misdemeanor conduct and rightfully referred to the city attorney's office. Based on the nature and severity of the December attack, Mr. Lee is now facing felony charges, which my office will prosecute. And he pleaded not guilty to the attempted murder charge and will appear before a judge on June 2nd. Lee was charged with assault with a deadly weapon over the incident at the Hollywood Bowl. So it was a replica gun that could eject a blade. Wild. Anyway, let's continue on. Got a few more articles. The next article is in the Smack Talk channel. And if you are in my chat, please say hello. Don't forget to follow if you're not following me. Would love to add to that counter up there and have you become a med. I don't know what I was saying there. A citizen of ohmTown. That would be awesome. This next article in the Smack Talk channel is Apple's headset faced numerous snags early. Johnny Ive is still involved with the project. A new report details some of the hurdles that Apple has faced in developing its mixed reality headset, including one stemming from a decision by former Apple design chief Johnny Ive. Let's click this link, and it takes us over to appleinsider.com and an article by Mike Peterson. I hope that these are not the Apple AR glasses. These would be VR goggles or a VR headset. I really don't want these to be anything AR. Yeah. And if they're mixed reality, this is going to be a nightmare too. So at any rate, says Mike Rockwell, the executive in charge of Apple's VR team, believed the base station model would win out among Apple brass because he thought they would accept the cartoony graphics of the standalone version. However, he was wrong. Pardon me 1 minute. Yeah, so I went out and nature is just beating me down as my allergies are getting just hammered because it's like 100 degrees outside. And all kinds of stuff is impacting my allergies. Anyway, in the years since the decision was made in 1990, Apple's team working on the project would struggle to overcome technical hurdles related to chips, cameras, avatars. Those hurdles have had real effects. A report from January indicated that Apple canceled plans to debut the device at WWDC 2022, which would be a bummer. I would really like to be teased with a mixed reality or AR headset. I want completely wireless VR, and that's seemingly a big ask for Apple to come up with something in this time frame that they feel is quality enough to bring to market. A VR headset, it can be sourced pretty well. We'll see what happens here towards the end of this year. Advocates for the desk-bound version said that Apple should have released a device that creatives could use to create mixed reality experiences before moving on to something for consumers such as Apple Glass. And that's really what I want. I want glasses that are AR that look for either beacons or QR code style things. You can do away with the whole face recognition stuff because that's really what triggers people, which is interesting in some ways because people will draw the line at privacy in the real world, but they divulge everything into Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or wherever. So we have this kind of a love-hate relationship with information and a distribution of said information. But I'm excited for this. I think Apple will do it right. As long as they make it wireless and less than $1,000. If this stuff comes in like the Microsoft VR product, I just forgot what its name is, coming in at like $3,000, even $2,000, it's just way too high. If this thing isn't $1,000 or less, it'll still get traction, but it just won't be, people won't be beating a path to the door of this thing. But I'll be an early adopter of it. Let's continue on with the next article. It'll be an exciting year as we come out of the pandemic and people start returning to somewhat normal. But I'm pretty comfortable with the way things are. This next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. 2 reasons the U.S. is in major housing shortage. Construction can't get done, and houses cost more than many Americans can afford. Well, I'm just going to click this link, and it'll take us over to Business Insider, and they talk about it. Alcina Lloyd is the author of this article, and if you're looking at the picture, that right there is just a ramshackle mess of sticks. Some people call it a house. That's how my house is built. Pretty much just like that. But the real problem here is the reason why things are so expensive is because of stuff like that. So this requires wood. And when during the pandemic in particular, and with anything that requires a whole host of resources to get done, you end up with increased costs because every single element needs a little bit more juice applied to it. Somebody wants a little bit more profit, somebody else wants a little bit more profit off of that. Nobody wants to have their profit margin impinged by inflation. And all of these middle people in between need to make their money as well, not only to make up for the lower level costs, but they need their juice on top of increasing it again and again and again. People are spooked by inflation. So houses can't get done because wood is really expensive. People are getting sick still. Nobody wants to work for a pittance. There's downward pressure on anybody that might migrate to the United States to do construction work like this because, quote unquote, they're taking our jobs. All kinds of garbage. So why don't we focus on getting the job done? How can we do that? 3D printing houses. But you can't get 3D printed houses in the United States because building code won't allow it. Why? Because it's entrenched in ancient uh, building technologies for the common person, and you have to pay an arm and a leg to get variances to allow a custom house to be built. But if we start printing with concrete instead of wood and nails, not only will it solve a whole bunch of housing problems, but it'll become less expensive. You can use hyperlocal resources as well. You can go dig up some dirt from a hill and start printing. It's largely that easy. You just have to mix the materials the right way, and it'll be as good as cement or concrete. And you can print the houses layer after layer, including the stairs built right into the printing process, just like FDM printers. And there's fewer people. And when you're doing a building of a window frame or something else that needs additional reinforcement or whatever, there's a human there that can just facilitate it and the print can continue. Even second floors, all kinds of other stuff. And it's one contiguous piece, impervious to the elements and hurricane and tornado resistant far beyond anything that's held together by nails and supposed hurricane or tornado straps. Because as I've said in other episodes, the reason why houses fall over is because the wind sucks the roof off or rips it off from the eaves, and then the walls just fall over because the house is being held up by the roof. Yeah, that's literally what's holding the house up. A bunch of little pins stuck through some trees, and the moment that it just gets lifted straight off or ripped off from an angle, the walls just fall over because those two are just pinned into the cement. So we're doing our houses wrong. And in the 21st century, all we need is to 3D print a house out of cement, concrete actually. And it's basically a big rock. Make sure you have good airflow and you're done. And there are reports that concrete now is adept at pulling certain pollutants out of the air, although other reports say that it's a contributor to CO2. I don't know. I'm conflicted here. So they say there are two reasons the U.S. hasn't built enough homes to meet demand, and material delays make scheduling projects inconsistent, which makes it hard to retain workers. Yeah. But you know what's real easy? Digging a hole and building a house out of that dirt. And we can do it now. It gets done in other places, but building code doesn't allow it. Much of that decline was in single-family homes. Meanwhile, spring homebuyer demand helped push home prices up 15.5% year over year to a median selling price of $424,405. And if you were to get a mortgage here in the States now, and your mortgage is anything close to $700, you're going to be paying 6%. whereas a year ago it was 2.75. And if you had 800 score or higher, you were paying around maybe 2.5. But nowadays, you're not getting a good deal like that unless you're Elon Musk. So let's see. Builders still have a backlog of uncompleted homes to get through before they can break ground on new projects. Not everywhere. It happens. But prices are wildly out of line, particularly with inflation. So we need to change the dynamic. That means 3D printing our houses. You can get some of the same aesthetic, but aesthetic changes over time. The houses that we have today are wildly different than what they were 60 or close to 100 years ago. We need to change the dynamic again, and we can do it. We just have to society has to accept these new building techniques and aesthetics. I'm more interested in the safety and durability. A concrete house is silent. You can blast your music as loud as you want. You can play drums right inside the front of the house, and you just close your doors and it's not going anywhere. So let's continue on. The next article is over in the Law Nerd channel. Again, it's about law. So a really good name for a channel, right? Law Nerd. Federal court will investigate leak of survey describing alleged bias and bullying by judges. Of course, they investigate the leak, but nobody would know about it unless somebody leaked it. And I think that abuse happens in the dark. So let's click this link. It'll take us over to abajournal.com. Deborah Cassens-Weiss is the author of the article. And it says the Washington Post published a story on the survey Monday. The publication now reports on news of the investigation revealed in an announcement to colleagues by Chief Judge Sri Srinivasan of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The leak of a confidential document compiling the responses was a serious breach of that understanding and must be investigated. More than 90% of the survey respondents said that they had not personally experienced, witnessed, or heard about instances of misconduct, but those who reported misconduct complained of gender discrimination, bullying, and racial insensitivity. Well, there's always a little bit of that, and the people that need to stop that really aren't paying attention. But everybody has to go through certain things like Title IX training here in the States. If you are interested in anything that has to do with government, you go through Title IX training. If you are interested in many businesses, you go through Title IX training. You go through ethics training. There have been instances of racial sensitivity training, but not everybody does that. But the people that need to not be insensitive, and the people that need to stop discriminating, and the people that need to stop bullying certainly don't pay attention to whatever is in there. I mean, you're more likely to hear from somebody who does, if they're going to be a Title IX violator, sexual harassment violator, they're going to come out of that training as saying, I didn't get any new tips. Okay, let's continue on. Don't investigate the leaker. I mean, the fact of the matter is that they acted like a whistleblower talking about something that had a social impact. If the report shows that there isn't any bias, then kudos. Jpmorgan, but there's a limit, right? There's certain things. If the leak involves exposing a person who has done no wrong and puts them into a position where their life might be threatened, then yeah, there's a serious problem there. But context matters. So the context, I can't go into every variable in the context spectrum, but there's some whistleblowing that you had just better, okay, we understand that the whistle was blown. Let's solve the problem. Don't go pursuing somebody if the facts are obvious. Just move on. It's like that surveillance state stuff from Snowden, that was a reality. And then they go after the whistleblower because it revealed the secret. Yeah, it's because this was all being surreptitiously done while being denied. Okay, let's continue on to the next article because I'll get bogged down in this soapbox. Jpmorgan predicts $6 gasoline by the end of the summer. This is like regular gas, right? Average. Premium gas is already above $6. Some gas stations in California are already above $6. The national average for a gallon of gas is at a record 4.59 per gallon, and it could be about to hit 6. And this is here in the United States. In other countries, other places, they go by what is going on with this? Hello? This is weird. Okay. I'll leave this for now, but this is an article by Pippa Stevens, but it's not displaying it for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. I'll have to look into it. But at any rate, gas prices are continuing to increase. To me, I'll say it again, I think that it's profiteering. It's playing off of the fears and trying to recover the losses using the same issue, which is the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and its influence on global markets for oil and gas. I think that it's just an excuse to raise prices because not only do they have they raised prices, but they have record profits and people are making more money in the executive suite of these companies and the workers are not getting anything out of it. So this is all profiteering off of fear. And now we have inflation to contend with. And so instead of letting their margins take a hit, to me, I would say that this is on the more sociopathic side of abusive pricing. So let's continue on to the next article. To tax the rich, we need to debunk the myth of fleeing millionaires. As it turns out, high earners won't leave if you increase their taxes. You want to know why? So this article might go into it, but I have my own observations about it. And just to let you know, again, this is a commondreams.org article. Their article titles tend to be inflammatory in nature, in my opinion. I don't know if I could scientifically prove that, but I'm sure that if you looked at all of the headlines, you would sit there and go, wow, that's really intense. So it says, as it turns out, high earners won't leave if you increase their taxes. This is an article over at commondreams.org by Omar Ocampo, or Ocampo. I'm not sure what the inflection is, but this November, the Massachusetts electorate will vote on a ballot initiative that will have profound consequences. The ability for the state to amend its constitution and levy a 4% surtax on all individuals that have an annual income of $1 million or more. And that right there is actually a pretty low bar in terms of wealth. So if you're a millionaire, you're going to get an extra 4% surtax on all of your income. So the Fair Share Amendment, or millionaire's tax, as it is known colloquially, my gosh, I've been talking all day today, and now I can't say colloquially, is expected to raise significant revenue, with the majority, if not all, of the monies to be invested in education and public transportation. Wonderful. Spend some of that on trying to figure out if we can do 3D printed houses. That'll solve the housing problem. Because you won't have to rely on tearing down trees. You just kind of dig a hole or skim some dirt off the top. Or if you're going to have a basement, you basically dig the basement, 3D print the foundation or pour the foundation and build the walls all the way up 2 stories or 3 stories. There's going to be enough there to build those walls. Anyway, this fear that people are going to take their money and run, That's not how it works. If you've made all of your money in the US and you suddenly disappear, where are you going to go? You're going to want to invest in the very markets that made it all possible. So you made your money here in the States. You're going to stay in the States. If you go somewhere else, you're going to invest back into the States. So there is no reason to fear somebody leaving. If you take it and run, don't worry, it'll be back. Your money will be back. You will be back. Why? Because you've benefited from the protections of the United States. You go somewhere else, try and take it somewhere else. Go ahead. What do you think is going to happen? Anybody out in chat want to take a stab at what you think is going to happen if a millionaire or a billionaire leaves? Wow, maybe there's going to be some more opportunity because we're not going to be bound by only what the rich people want. Because all that they want really is to, make more money. Even if they do great good in the process, they are making more money. A lot of people are like, oh, SpaceX, it would never have existed without a billionaire. Well, that's not quite true. It almost imploded. What made SpaceX possible is public money being infused into the system because somebody believed in what the project was. Not somebody, but the government, the leadership of the government that funded SpaceX. That is what made SpaceX possible. Tesla and SpaceX, for all accounts that I have read, was on the verge of collapsing until a US government grant infused it with capital. So we all have dreams, and the risk was strong there, and the reward was even better if it could have been capitalized. Luckily, somebody came in at the last minute and made it happen. And now all of that wealth is being leveraged by Twitter, and all kinds of manipulations are taking place now to lower the valuation of Twitter, and it's impacting Tesla and SpaceX. And now there's a report about SpaceX too. Very questionable stuff going on. $250,000 check, I guess. I don't know what all is involved there, so it'll come out in the news. But this is about millionaires. And so where do you think millionaires are going to go internally? Well, they're not going to stay in Massachusetts because they don't want this 4% tax. So people are going to exfiltrate their money from Massachusetts. That's about the limit of how far they're going to. It's kind of like a toddler running away and saying, I'm going to run away. Well, you're not going to go very far, toddler. Come on back. Data indicates that while migration outflows are greater than inflows in California, and it did increase during the pandemic, there is nothing to suggest that a mass exodus is currently taking place. Yeah, nobody wants to leave because we are very protective of the population within it. Some places we abuse that same population, and it really depends on what your socioeconomic status is and maybe the color of your skin. Oh, I'm understating that one. But you're not going anywhere, billionaire or millionaire or otherwise. You're not going to take your money somewhere else. It's going to disappear a whole lot faster in other countries. Just wait until something gets nationalized, like your bank account. Very low chance, almost non-existent, of it happening here in the States. Next two articles are my last two. This next one is about pitch decks. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are interested in this kind of startup community, startup world, then this is for you. Search over 725 pitch decks that startups including Uber, Postmates, and Airbnb use to raise millions. I love this kind of stuff. I cut my teeth in the startup community and have started up businesses, several businesses in my lifetime, and I'm running my own right now. This is an article by Madeline Renbarger, and it's over at Business Insider. And they've compiled a deck of searchable library of pitch decks. And they say billions of dollars in venture capital flow every year to startups that can articulate their visions in a way that makes investors see dollar signs. I'll give you a couple of tips here. Don't be verbose in your presentation. Be succinct. Make sure that you describe your team in a way that makes anybody who wants to invest that they believe in your leadership. Not necessarily the product. The product has to be sound, but if they don't feel that you can execute, you are not going to get any traction. Let me tell you. I mean, I've done a lot of pitches, and the number one thing is if you are really young, then get somebody gray in there to give you some gravitas. If you're brilliant, then they aren't going to care, but if you don't come across like you can execute this idea, they're not going to want to invest. Or they're going to invest, but they're going to want to put a seat somewhere in your house where they can facilitate helping you in whatever weakness there is, but it'll cost you more. We have now been combined. What? We have now been combined? Wow, this is really weird sentence structure. They've been combined into a searchable database that you can access. So, dun, 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 dun. So, not bad. There's 37 pages of pitch decks. So, I'll probably be checking this out more. I've seen these libraries before, not necessarily 725 of them. But it's always interesting to see how the other half lives. So go and check it out. And finally, pardon me one second. I don't know what's going on. I don't have a cold. I still can taste things. But I shouldn't joke about COVID because every time I joke, something happens. Okay, so this next and my last article is in the continuity report, which is about movies. I would love to have movie night here on Twitch. Somehow I'm going to make it happen. Obviously, we can't stream Stranger Things, but we might be able to watch it all together at the same time. I'd love to be able to do that, and we can kind of sync things up. Hopefully nobody spoils it for anybody else while we're doing it, but it's all about kind of meeting up in the crossroads of Discord and Twitch and making it all happen. So we'll see. Let's see what we can do. 1 week ahead of the highly anticipated return of Stranger Things, Netflix has dropped the first 8 minutes of the season in a sneak peek, as well as announcing the episode counts for season 4's upcoming 2 parts. Let's click the link. This article is over at Variety by Wilson Chapman. And there it is. Look at that. It's over on YouTube. Not on Netflix, but they dropped it so that they could tease you into being prepared for it. So I can't wait for Stranger Things 4. It has to do with Vecna, which is a D&D lich from my youth. So I'm just overwhelmed with glee that they are bringing this back and extending it into something that I really can buy into. A lich from D&D with so much historical backstory, like the hand of Vecna and the eye of Vecna, and the possibilities of this world building continuing is just so much fun for me. I can't believe that today the amount of world building that's possible and the embodiment of it using such precise computer graphics and practical effects together combined just make the creative process, and it kind of stimulates other people to create these great things too. So I hope that this continues and doesn't just stop after 7 seasons or something. Let it evolve into different adventurers, basically existing in this um, same world, this Stranger Things kind of existence. 7 episodes of Volume 1 will premiere right under the wire for the Emmy consideration deadlines, which ends May 31st. Stranger Things has been a consistent Emmys favorite, with the past 3 seasons all receiving nominations for Outstanding Drama Series. Overall, the series has garnered 6 Primetime Emmy Awards out of 39 nominations. Pretty cool, huh? In addition to the 2-part season 4, Stranger Things has also been renewed for a 5th season, which will be the show's last. So look at that. I said something and my dreams have been dashed on the rocks of reality. Let's hope that they reconsider this. Okay, anyway, that is the end of the ohmTown Daily News Show. I do have to get out of here. I've got 2 minutes to spare. Thank you if you are in my chat. Be sure to follow. I would love to get my numbers up, and I would love to see more people join ohmTown and become a citizen of ohmTown. Like all shows, I go back to the front page and I refresh that front page, and we get a whole new set of articles. I continue to make changes to the back end of ohmTown, but I need to add some more resources. So if you know of any news sources that you would like to see aggregated into ohmTown, be sure to let me know one way or the other. If you have to carry or pigeon something to me, go for it. But my aggregator is running all the time, going out and finding the news that is relevant to these 6 categories and the 50 channels within it, typically within the context of business, technology, and society merging, kind of like a crossroads. And with that in mind, I want to thank you again. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to try and make this happen earlier. I'm shooting for 11 o'clock, covering the last 24 hours, about 20 articles. Really depends on how much soapboxing I do. So see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.